Okay, so we're on record. We are about to have a conversation again, and I say again, right? Because we tried this. we tried this before, and it didn't. It's not that it didn't work. It's just my machine.
It didn't record. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
We had a problem with the recording, but fine. That's absolutely fine. Hey.
Yeah. So here we are again. I could do a little dance, little.
Wow.
Now let me tell you why I'm dancing, like for real, because of all the people that I would have wanted to do this twice with, would be you. You'd be one of them.
Hey.
No, I mean
well,
that.
I'm deeply honored.
Honestly, because I know that any which way, there's still going to be juice. Like, I don't feel like, like we're about to repeat any other conversation we've had. That's how I feel.
Very good.
So, here we go. So where should I start? I think I should start with introducing you. That would help. So obviously I know your name.
I have many names.
Yes, you have many names. I call you Jacob E. Muhammed.
That's right.
Right? Because I just love that. I know you also have like an artist name.
Yes. I have alias names for the music that I do, depending on what genre I'm working in. So my house name is what some will call J.Key, because what it is obviously when I first started music, they said, oh, I was working with rappers, and they said, yeah, so what's your name? I said, my name's Jacob. They go, yeah, but what's your alias name? And I said, I don't pertain to one at the moment, really. And they said, where are you from? I said, well, my parents are from Ghana. I was born here. And they said, oh. So I said, yeah, I'll probably associate myself with Kente, like Kente Cloth. They went, oh, yeah, that's cool. And I went, so for a little while, at the beginning of my so-called music career, I started off as Kente, but obviously I never put anything out at that particular time. Anyway, I ended up being in another band, which was sort of more acid jazz at the time. And we were working with some rappers, and they said to me, Jacob, what's your alias name? I said, I don't have one. They said, oh, come on, you must have. And then one said, you know what? You should be called J.Key, but without the A. So not J-A-K-E-Y, put J-K-E-Y, or just J and Key, J.Key.
Oh.
So that's what I'm now known as in terms of house music. Other than that, I have adopted another name as well called J.Key Love. Okay. J.Key Love. So
I love that, because in my mind I'm thinking to myself, okay, so by virtue of introduction, I should sort of state that that these conversations that I'm having, conversations with Michi and this new series that I've started, that the premise for this collection of first episodes is around well-being and lifestyle. And it's interesting that you have now already kind of introduced us to different aspects of your lifestyle, past, present, and I know we're going to talk about future as well, somewhere in here. And so I'm kind of thinking to myself, the love bit, J.Key Love, like, does that have anything to do with particular events in your life, or like, where did that come? Like, we're just getting that, this is a deep dive, like we're just getting in it.
Okay, so that part really became because I was known, because I have a certain range, and I have like a mid and sort of, I have a high and sort of very mid tone. So my deep tone can be very sort of sensual and very sort of be like, oh. So I've been known to be a little bit more like, oh, he's got one of those voices that, So everybody just started saying, yeah, everybody loves your tracks. Everybody loves your tracks, J.Key. and you know, J.Key's just giving love, so I just thought J.Key Love. So that became another sort of pseudonym to the whole situation. But you know, hey, it depends on the mood of the song or who I'm working with that we use particular names. But other than that, I'm predominantly known as J.Key. That's what most people know me as, because I did quite a lot of stuff in the early or sort of late 90s, a lot of the, you know, the garage music. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of garage tunes. So I was part of a crew, or there's a particular brother called TJ Cases, who was very big on the scene, had some really big hits. And obviously one of mine was quite a big hit at the time, because I did a song called Don't Stop Baby Not Tonight. And then there was like, he had songs like Do It Again. Then there was My Inspiration. So we were quite big in that kind of field, and we were working with, you know, we had to do sort of shows, or we were on par with MJ Cole and what's the other group called? But you know, the Bo Selector, in terms of like Artful Dodger, all those, we were all part of that kind of whole scene, the soulful scene, before it got really MCing. Kind of, you know, in terms of all the rap and Creed and everybody else jumping on board. But yeah, so, you know, we came from more that kind of section. So I had a big anthem, and it's still a big tune, you know. Funny enough though, I'm a soul man at the end of the day. So it was quite interesting, because I wasn't really in the scene. I just done it as a session job, and I forgot about it. I sang it the way TJ wanted me to sing it, but I didn't know how big he was on the scene. So he's a very good singer or songwriter. He's a great songwriter anyway, definitely. And he's a good singer, but he's more of a baritone, so he's got more of that Barry White voice. Yeah, very Barry White voice. So he's now become an artist of himself in his own right, which is called Low Deep T. His name is, so because he's got that high, he's got that kind of voice, you know. So he does all those kind of, so his name is Low Deep T, and he's a good friend of mine. 6'4" Nigerian man, you know. Yes, you know, Niger man,
house.
You know, so the Africans that leave, you know, it's interesting in our music. We are kind of like very prominent now in terms of Afrobeat and Afro house and all that. But you know, as you know, my first love is fashion. I studied fashion. I went to fashion school, London College of Fashion, and studied tailoring. And so my main passions, I would definitely say, are or just as well as my main passions, they're the only things I think I really am relative to and good at, per se, naturally, which is music and basically fashion design and styling. So that's my forte, really. I can do those sort of things without having to really think too much, because it's more of a natural talent that I have, as opposed to anything else. I mean, I started off, to be honest with you, because I was a big break dancer back in the day. I was a big dancer, so I was a big jazz dancer, hip hop, all sorts of, I was doing all forms of dance. But I went into acting because I was an entertainer. Basically, I'm just an all-round entertainer. So anything to do with the arts, being a dyslexic, was easier for me, because I'm a dyslexic. So that's why me per se, I can't speak for everybody else, but I'm more of a person that I'm more driven to the arts and lean more that way naturally, as opposed to trying to be the academic. So
that's interesting. That's interesting, and I want to, and I love to let the conversation just flow. But the reason why I sort of chose to interject there is because you touched on things, some of them of which I know, and then you also touched on things that I've even got some, greater understanding, of and insight into, which I really love. I mean, I love learning new things about people, especially people I've known for a long time, because we've known each other for a long moment. And what's interesting is a lot of your, like, I've always known you to be, an artist, like across the board, like, artist. But it's interesting hearing how music, seem to have almost set you up. Like if we think about what people would call successful moments in their lives, you know, where you would meet somebody who asks you to just do some session work, and next minute you're on this scene with all the people you've named, you know, are familiar names, right? Artful Dodger, like the, you know, Boo Select, like all those names are names that you know have, you know, you get a little beat in the back of your mind and you remember, if you know, if you're of that era. If you're younger, I don't know what to say right now about that.
Exactly.
Right now, this is like a, you know, an aged conversation, like good wine. Anyway, so but what's interesting that I want to ask you about is, you talk about this innate sense of creativity, being able to occupy that space really easily without having to think about it, when I'm sure that in school or in the formal sense of what we call education, you know, and societal success, we're still navigating. I think we still are, because I think it's now that you hear more people talk about dyslexia.
Absolutely.
And they're not, you know, generation, you know, Y, Z or whatever, right? They're from our era. So what was that like, you coming up in life? What was that like, knowing that you had this innate sense of creativity that was easy for you, even though there might have been another aspect of your life that was much more challenging? And it's all right when we're adults and we can make, you know, conscious choices about what direction to go in. But when we're much younger, I think it's a little bit more challenging when we already have these other challenges we're facing. So what was that journey like for you?
Well, it's interesting you're asking the question, because to be honest with you, like you quite clearly mentioned, in the time when we were coming up, you know, sort of, you know, early 70s, 80s, dyslexia, you know, all these names we have now, Asperger's and all that, these things were not they were not known. So to be a dyslexic at that time was almost like you felt like the dumbest person in the class. You just couldn't understand why you couldn't catch on to things and learn things quickly as everybody else. I'm a twin, because I know you're aware, but obviously
I have to just say, look, okay, sorry, I know I'm just gonna have I'm just gonna have a fan out moment, right? Like, no, really, because I've known you a long time, and you are delicious in all of yourself. So every time I think that there's like another delicious pie, like somewhere, you know, and you and I have talked about the possibility of being able to have a three-way conversation, as in you and your twin, because I think that would be very interesting to hear what his, you know, how he's navigated life and what it's like being a twin, especially as you have different interests and, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're both in the arts, because he's an actor now.
Yeah.
And I'm the singer stroke designer. But yeah, so that was interesting being at school, because obviously you are aware, but you're not aware. Luckily for me, being the twin and being quite artistic in the way of dance, we're really very good at. I was a very big break dancer, gymnast and everything. So I excelled in all those sort of things. So you were cool. And we dressed, and one thing about me and my twin brother, we always had a sense of dress. So we dressed the part. Even though we couldn't afford it, to be honest with you, I was saving my dinner money. My mum and dad were giving us £1 a day or something like that, and we would save the money and basically just save up to buy the trainers. And we're a family of 5 boys, no girls, and we're not exactly rich. We were living in a council flat at the time, and we just didn't want to. And eventually we got to an age where we were probably at an age where we could get a paper round. So we've always worked, in the sense of we always worked towards getting our stuff. So we wanted to get clothes, whereas a lot of our school colleagues, they had all of that. They had the parents that could buy them the Aqua Scooters, the Burberrys and all that. I couldn't afford that sort of stuff. So eventually I got into the Cavichis, and we had our, your kickers, and you had your, your hush puppies, and so we look cool. But what I'm saying is, we learned quickly that you work hard to get what you needed, and you look after what you got. And but being
Sorry. Can we just stay there for a minute? Can we just stay there just for 1 second? Because I think there's great wisdom and some jewels in that. Because what you are saying to me is, what I am hearing is that at a young age, irrespective of your background, and the fact that as a twin, you almost even split things, right? So everything gets shared. So even if you're a family of 5 boys, my assumption is, because I know what it's like being from, a family where we're predominantly girls, there is almost a sense that girls, that you get treated like you are one unit. So I can't imagine what that would possibly be like for 5 boys, and then 2 of them, a pair of twins, probably treated as one unit. So
absolutely
right. So I'm already hearing that you have to almost find your own identity there, and then you have to find your identity amongst your peer group, with a sort of, where one could say you were shortchanged somewhat. And back in the day, I know you want to say something, but back in the day, even being of African parentage,
I was going to go and say,
people don't understand that. Like they say, oh yeah, people seem to think, oh, well, you all were born in Britain, so what are you generally complaining about? Like, people don't seem to understand what those two worlds were like. It's not like now where it's much more blended, and people are like, oh, they can even distinguish between, when we say African, that there's Ghana, there's Nigeria. Do you know what I mean? It's so yeah, I know you want to say something. Talk to me a little bit about
because I was going to say exactly that, because to be honest with you, I mean, I wasn't going to go into it like that, but since you've led me to that point, it was a situation of, obviously, when we got into school and we were we were noticed because we were twins. So, and they never split us apart, never. Through all the schooling we've ever had, we were never split. We never went to one class, another, and all that. So they kept that together. But funny enough, when we went to school, we did notice the shift a little bit in terms of when we went from infants to secondary or even primary school. We realized very quickly that as much as the school was mixed with black, Asians, and whites and everything like that, we were the Africans. So there was a big difference there. And luckily, because I had my twin brother and we were quite athletic and very sort of agile like that, and because, funny enough, this is what is interesting as well, we tended to be stronger than most of them because we did a lot more chores at home. Chores made you strong.
Wait.
I know.
Jacob, let me tell you why I'm laughing. Because I wanted to just say, I know sometimes I say things and people think, oh my gosh, she's so blunt. But because, this idea that people just think, oh, they're African, they're just strong and just come out strong. And forgetting that there is training involved in that. If you are strong in your mind, there's training that comes with it. I don't think it's about a gene or DNA. If you are strong athletically, there's training that comes with that. If you are street smart, there's training that comes with that. And I touch on it because you also talked about this idea of repeat what you said about having to work. You go through hard times in order to achieve what you said.
In terms of we have, in that terms of like, we have to do the things we have to do to be who we are, and that the hard trials are necessary to establish your truth.
Right. So you started to pick up on that when you were young, that you needed to go through these hard trials in order to establish truth? Or were you trying to establish truth and it was taking you through these hard trials, but you had some training in athleticism, in discipline at home, in what? I know I've gone a little bit deep with that. I know I've gone a little bit deep, but...
Just like what we're discussing at this point, being aware that I was of a different background in terms of African background, we now have to find our identity in that or get lost in the system. So me, and obviously my dad was a very strong African man, very proud of where he comes from, and he's not letting that go for no one. So trying to get that kind of level of understanding of where you come into this situation. And like I said, luckily for me, I had my twin brother. So when we were being so-called, people realized that we were Africans, and then I'm fighting black and white because we're Africans. And luckily, somebody had my back. So me and my brother, we didn't play. So all those, as you know, when we were in school, those mum jokes and all that. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. This is what I'm saying. I didn't understand all that kind of language. So you say anything about my mother, there was going to be there was going to be a correction. So those things. So we got soon known to be, don't mess with those twins. And I'm not saying that we were small, but we were fierce enough to know that, listen, you back us in a corner, we're going to have to deal with you a certain way. And that's what happened. And then we learned very quickly that when we were going out and everything like that, and you have to understand, as you probably are aware, back in those times, we were especially in terms of in our black community, we were the minority. We were not the majority. So we were amongst a lot of Caribbeans, our brothers and sisters are from the Caribbean and everything. I had no idea I don't know the difference between St. Lucia and Jamaica and Barbados. I don't know none of that. I didn't know any of that. And then when we had to go to the dances and all that, and you're on your journey trying to find who you are. To be honest with you, mum and dad were very much, they were kind of eclectic in terms of their music, because music is one of those things that kind of blurred lines for a lot of people. We got into, we were watching Grease and watching all these, and we're thinking, where did we fit? Because to be honest with you, I loved all these movies, but there was hardly any black people in there. So to have that whole idea of conking your hair or perming it to be, look like John Travolta and the whole thing, there was a lot of us still trying to identify being the T-Bird and all those sort of things. But we didn't really, and I was, to be honest with you, luckily for me, I was very much a soul man. So back in the day when there was the tribalism of the Ted, the rocker, the punk, the skinhead, and then the soul man, then that's kind of where I lean to, more the jazz and the soul and the all that fusion. But obviously 80s, especially in that time, it was a prime time for music that was brilliant because you had so many genres and they were all very good.
Yeah.
Anybody that was good in the 80s is still eating today, basically. They can go on tour, well, obviously not in lockdown, but what I'm saying, a lot of them are still coming back and can make a good change today.
Yes.
Yeah. So being, like I said, the dyslexic in school and realizing that you are being told to hold back from exams, you've got an extra half an hour and you've got extra this and you're doing extra classes, you realize very quickly that, something's not right here. But, like I said, I was quite the cool kid. So it went very undetected to a degree because we were still very popular. Being twins and being quite extrovert in our abilities to do things, we were very popular. We were part of every rugby, football team. We were part of all the sports. We were relatively good swimmers. Yes, we were always in, the favored areas. But, so I could hide kind of behind that area. As well as that, funny enough, I was the only boy in textile arts.
See, that's what I was gonna ask you. That's where I was waiting to kind of get to, because you had the advantage, and I'm gonna just call it an advantage for the purposes of this conversation. You had an advantage that many people don't have sometimes. People who, and whether we're talking about people who by color or by academic category or by heritage, because that Africa versus black divide was very much so. Now we're in this category of, are you black African, black Caribbean, or
right,
other,
absolutely.
and they put it in this list like it's equal, but we know in our time that was not the case, right?
Absolutely.
Having to even navigate space, I love how you say it, with amongst our brothers and sisters that were of the Caribbean, and you know what I mean, which also kind of had its own, but that's not what this conversation is about. But why I say that you had, or when I say that you had an advantage that maybe others don't have, I want to understand how you recognized the artistic side in you? Because there are people who either they excel in sports, they're dyslexic but they excel in sports,
Right.
dyslexic, or they excel in the arts. But sometimes even the excelling in the arts is almost a fluke, because I also know coming up in our time, it wasn't like people were being pushed into
Yes,
art
absolutely.
like it is a thing to be done. Now it's cool, but
Yes,
so
absolutely.
talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, because obviously being coming from an African background, Dad was an engineer working at Gatwick Airport. I mean, don't get me wrong, he had his troubles, but we were too young, so he didn't really explain a lot of that until a lot later. But being Africans, they always, especially at that particular time, it was all about the academics.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not a lawyer, accountant, you weren't, football, what is football? All these things, all the art world, music, what is that? Well, these meant nothing to Africans at that particular time. It's only now because it's feasible now, and you can make good money, and you can live a certain lifestyle, and then it's now, because fundamentally, I think as we've all got older, even parents as well, we've all realized that everybody goes to study and gets a degree. It's all about making the money. It comes down to the money at the end of the day. That's what everybody goes there for that ticket to ride, to get a better job, to make a certain amount of money. So,
but were you conscious of that though when you were that young? Because so you said you felt you were in the textile class as the only boy, so that means that you weren't even there with your twin.
No.
So explain that to me, and explain how you went from that to recognizing something innate in you to then almost having this conscious passion about following the arts. Let's even take that you had this fluke incredible success with music, but that trajectory from always being with your twin, being in an academic family of immigrants, because I know what that's like, you know what I mean, to Absolutely. Then be, and to also being able to be athletic and and all of that, and then finding yourself in a textile arts class separated from your brother, to then this space that you now occupy where there's hardly any art form that you cannot do.
Okay, so interestingly enough, mum and dad they always had sewing machines, the industrial ones, the Brotha and an overlocker. My mum and my auntie used to make knickers, and my mum and dad would sell them at Portobello Road Market. Wow. Now, we were too young to go with them, but the machine was here, or in the flat at the time. And what I used to do, because I was in the bedroom eventually with the machine, I used to do things like I used to find old stuff that my dad had, and then I would take it apart and sew it all back together. That's so I could understand.
Hold on, wait, okay, see, I knew that this conversation was going to be juicy even for me, because let me tell you, brother, if my father knew what I did with his Italian suits, I will not be alive in this day. And if he ever finds out somehow through this conversation, a sibling might hear it, whatever, it's gone, you can't do nothing to me. You never noticed then, so let's just leave. So talk to me about that. What was your were these things just laying around and he didn't know?
Well, these funny enough, these garments were very old. So I know he wasn't kind of using them.
Okay.
Like you're just saying what you just said about your father, he probably totally unaware that I was even doing this stuff. But because the machine was, it was like a monster to me, because I don't know if you're aware, you must know what, when you've got an industrial machine and you turn it on and that engine and everything starts, and you're thinking, wow. So it was a bit of a beast. Sometimes when I used to try and use it, I was like, oh gosh, my foot and and I had to be careful about all that. But eventually I learned to understand the foot to get it to the point where I could get it where it will just bounce slowly, because, you learn to kind of control the foot. And I was like, okay. Then I learned to stitch it and everything like that. And because I was used to be watching mum kind of sewing certain things, I was like, okay. So eventually, so what? Like I said, I would just start putting things together. But I was a person that, because I was into the fashion thing, when we used to bleach jeans, I went and I made a stencil and got a paintbrush with the bleach on my jeans and made, because I like the, you know, the do you remember all the diamond Pringles and aqua scooting things?
Yeah.
I went and I put diamonds on my jeans. I made it into and trust me, the amount of basically attention I got for that. Where did you get those jeans? And can you do mine? And it was so I was.
What age were you around that time? Because obviously
Okay.
I knew you when you were like skilled, like, you know what I mean? Like you, same skill you had then working with.
I have to be honest with you.
How old were you by this point? Because obviously you've developed a machine.
I must have been around 9.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you. And then the funny thing about it, because we were playing, so I did all those sort of things, and that whole area used to be like, oh, he's the one where wears those diamond jeans. How did he do that? Because because remember, they're bleached jeans. And then I had the slit on the side, and we had the college shoes, and we had the Pringle. They were like, how did you do that? Everybody was asking, and I was like, I thought this was quite simple. But, you know, I just one day got the bleach, got the paintbrush, I chalked it out from my chalk from the textile arts, chalked it out how I wanted it, and then I used the paintbrush with the bleach, and I just painted it all in line for line and watched it just go to white, and then I washed it. I got pretty good at dyeing or bleaching jeans because that's what we used to do back in the day.
Yes.
You know, it's all about that funky. And you know, we grew up with a lot of elders around us. A lot of the older boys were they were very stylish, and we'll look at all their trainers, and you know, you just want to be like them. You know, they got the latest kickers, got the latest samba. You know, all these trainers that we used to like, gazelles and these different color gazelles and Adidas gazelles and this and that. We were like, you know, so there was a lot of people around me that I could study from and learn from. So I was like, but that was the unique thing that made me stand right out of everybody. They go, where did you get those diamonds? How did you do that? And I was like, I just bleached them. And they goes, yeah, but wait a minute, you got the diamonds and it's all perfect and and you bleached them like that. I said, yeah. So, you know, and obviously by the time I finished the bleaching, there's no more bristles on this paintbrush.
Right.
You don't realize how much this stuff is strong. But anyway, so we went through our trials and then I was in because I was playing a lot of football, and you know the shin pads.
Yes.
Right. So I made, because obviously we used to wear the shin pads, but we used to wear them within our socks. All the boys would know. And I decided to make, because I was sewing, I decided to make almost like a sock. Yeah. Now I would have made a lot of money for this, but here's the thing, Chomo. Who knew about these things back then? I made a sock that came up to your shin and everything like that, but I made a pocket on it so that you could actually put the actual shin.
Yes, your shin.
And then I put the Velcro. I used some Velcro and put it on there so you could hold it in place. Because the thing about the shin pad, it used to always move around.
Exactly.
So when I had that in there and I wore that, and my PE teacher said, "How did you do that?" I said, "I made those things." He said, "Wow, you could make a lot of money from this."
Okay.
Right.
K. So I listen. Jump around. Okay, so your PE teacher, because there's some threads here that I'm noticing. You have an understanding that something is not quite right. Your dyslexia is holding you back, but you've gained an understanding of the power that you have as this little person on this machine that now knows how to kind of, control this beast just by observation, because you were watching the women, the elders do what they do. You've now got some understanding by the power that you are, that you've got, and the attention you're attracting, whether it's in the playground or, the sports field, on the street in your neighborhood. And then now people or somebody in authority, because PE back in those days was like a big thing. It's not like now
well,
to be begging them
definitely.
to PE in the curriculum, right?
Definitely.
Like PE was a big thing. So your PE teacher would have been somebody that would have some influence. So when your PE teacher starts talking about money, what I'm not going to ask you what's going on in your mind because you're young, but how has either your response to it or your almost kind of flicking it off and not considering, like, how have those things played out in your life? And I know that you may have to think about it, but I ask that specifically because as creative people, we are notorious, and I mean notorious, for not making the connections,
yes,
the lines when it comes to our innate creativity, the things we can do in our sleep, because they say that that's
absolutely
the kind of work you want, where you don't have to work a day and then be paid for it.
That's right.
Don't make, for some reason, I don't know what it is, where we don't make those connections. You know,
but,
some have been successful, but
it's funny you're saying that, because to be honest with you, that has been part of the journey, because I've always known innately that I think it's because of the dancing and everything else and the fashion. I'm a person, I'm quite meticulous about detail of certain things. So I see the things that most people don't see. And I'm always looking at going, okay, what's that about? And I don't do that consciously. It's something just subconsciously that you're just thinking. Hence the reason why I thought, man, this pad keeps moving around. We've got to find a solution. And because my mum and had she had what they call I suppose it's called lipo, I suppose. You know, obviously because it was like the panty material.
Right. Yes.
I use that because it's elasticity and everything like that. I use that to kind of go, right, I'm going to put that because it stretches, so I can use it as a sock, and then put my over sock on top of it, put the shin pad in there and cover myself. It keeps you warm at the same time. You're double insulated. The PE teacher was like, wow, that is ingenious. But he said, oh, it's a shame that I don't know where to go with this. And that's what he said to me. And that's what stuck with me, because whereas now there are a lot of things that you can go places and find people that will sponsor and put up the money, dragging dens when you got an idea, and we didn't have those sort of things then. And he wasn't a business person either, because I would have liked to, because I trusted him. I liked him. His name was Mr. Turek. Lovely man, very muscular guy. I remember he was like, you know, he was one of those men that he was the first person apart from Arnold Schwarzenegger we looked at that was like, wow. But because he was muscular. I mean, he was built like that. He was an ex-weightlifter, so he had all of that. He had calves to die for. He had, you know, his body was proper structured and sculptured in a particular way that we all went, that's what a PE teacher looks like, because he had the whole physique on point. So yeah, and he took a good shine to me, my twin brother, and my cousin Giles, and because we were quite athletic and we were, you know, so he liked us. But he said, oh, I wish I knew somebody that could help me with this. And so that's the idea that kind of, I wouldn't even think about it as a business. Remember, I'm a young guy. I'm a young man. I don't know anything about this. But that's when you realize, as I've gone through the journey, I remember standing at the bus stops and saying to my brothers when it was freezing cold in the 80s, waiting for the buses, I'm like, man, why don't we just have a device that's at home on our television that tells us when the buses come, so that we can come out 5 minutes before and then get the bus and all that. 30 years later.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. But that, see, and so I love that, because 30 years later, right, we've now got that device. You're not the one that created it, you know, but you're using it. You're using it, but you're using it. But you managed to create something for yourself, right? Opportunity came in music. You just got asked to do, a session. You went, you did the session. Opportunities, arose. You were now comfortable enough in your creative truth to go with the flow, even if music was, even if fashion was your first and music your side chick, right? Fashion your first music.
I'll be brutally honest with you. I went to fashion school from London College of Fashion. I didn't even probably have the best grades, and I didn't get in the first year because they said they were full. You had to go for the interview. I went for the interview, and I met a lovely man by the name of oh gosh, what's his name now? Anyway, I can't remember. It'll come to me. But Mr. Stovall, that's his name. Lovely man, Mr. Stovall. He was the head of the department of the, and I really wanted to do the design thing because I was more to the design, but I knew there was certain kind of degree and qualifications you had to have for that. You know, I was stumbling in all the areas. On paper, I don't look good at all.
Wow.
You meet me, you know, I'm the person that, you know, he's affable, we can, you know, and, you know, I'm not speaking the best elaborated code of English, but I can get by. You know,
and back the work speaks for itself. I mean, I'm conscious that we're already at 40 some, you know.
Oh, sorry.
No. This is what I meant by this is going to be juicy. And I knew I would have no idea what to do with myself when it got this juicy. Because I want to continue that train. So there you are, you're saying, I love that you say on paper, you do not look that impressive, but a person meets you. That's how I met you, right?
Yeah.
Was it the Prince Charles?
We met at the Pavement in Clapham Common.
I know exactly.
During the business.
Yep.
During the business.
During the business, which was in the same building as the Prince's Trust. That's the one. Prince's Trust.
Right.
What exactly? And I don't remember our first conversation, but your swag, do you know what I mean? Like that our first meeting had nothing to do with what was on paper.
No, absolutely.
So, you know, nor were people walking around with a portfolio either. But I just want to say that exactly what you said, which is when people meet you, then they know that you know what you are, not even what you're talking about, you know what you're doing.
Right.
And that's why I love that we started this conversation when you were so young. I wasn't expecting that because even I learned a lot from that. But I think it's something that has followed you. And what I want to just now almost condense into the shortest possible time is how have you made that successful for yourself as an adult? I met you, you were doing leather, you were like on it. I was like, man, you know, when you were doing this stuff when other people weren't, when other people were not utilizing it from a tailoring perspective the way that you were, and those who were, we would have to go far and wide into the depths of Savile Row, into some big money situation in order to find those skills, right? You know, and we know even in those days we were very underrepresented in that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So talk to me a little bit about how you have created something successful for yourself, whatever success means for you. Because like you said earlier, it's not about, you know, yes, we need money, but
it's successful. I mean, you know, like you're saying, success is more the sort of things of happy in doing what you wish to do, as well as you can make money from it. That's, you know, obviously some people are just being successful mums and dads, and, you know, and these are the things where I said the journey will take you to find your truth of where you really sit, because you can make a lot of money, you could have the best job and not be happy. And I've had many of family members who have studied law and this and that and come out of and said, I'm not doing anything to do with law, I'm not doing any, you know, so they've had to go through the trial to establish the truth that they don't want to do that.
Oh my gosh, you see what you do? It's like I'm there, like I'm in the conversation like this, like I'm so enthralled, and then you throw something and I'm like, you know, go through the trials in order to, what was that you just said? They go through the trials.
Yeah, to establish the truth of what they really don't.
They go through the trials to establish the truth. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a whole other conversation, another hours.
No, but it's true.
Right
I mean, life in general is we're going through these trials. Like, think about it. Even now, we're being in lockdown and going through this whole trial. And here's the thing for me. You know, I know we're going to have another conversation about thought process and journeys and where you are, but I'm of the mind that, listen, if you are in a lockdown now, this is where you're going to establish your truth as well, because you're going to find out outside of work, what are you and who are you and what do you do? What makes you tick? Do you just work for the man, or are you doing, are you doing something that, because real work for me now starts with when I get home or when I leave work, because the job is just over broke. It's a job. It's not a career. So what is it that you want to make your money from? And I'm always saying to my children that if you do the things that you love to do, or get paid for the things you love to do, you'll never work. Now that's a very profound statement now. And i.e. the idea of using the analogy of a musician or a footballer, or somebody who's doing and loves doing what they're doing, you wouldn't even have to pay them; they would do it. But the mere fact that they get paid to do it, hey, this is what I'm trying to say, and that's where people are finding and establishing their truth. However, just like the early parts of my life, like I'm trying to bring it back into, is the idea that I learned from an early point of learning to do the breakdance moves, learning to be consistent at training something, is where you're going to really find where your purpose is, and it will lead you to other doors. Because being in the art world led me to the music side of things. I was at fashion school, and I remember Cameo being played, Word Up and all those sort of songs, and Candy, and I was singing along to that because I had the headphones back in the day. And some of the girls in the my class in fashion school were going, "Yeah, you're actually not bad," and I was that was 16, only 17. I became a perfect 16, 17. I left fashion school because I stayed a couple of years. We had a 3-year course, and then I stayed another 2 years part-time in the evenings doing a bit more pattern cutting to sharpen my skills on that side of things. And by 18 to 20, I'm a professional singer. I went to a place called the Weekend Arts College, which was in Kentish Town, where a lot of actors and singers and dancers all came from. And I met Marion Jean-Baptiste, and there's a whole bunch of dancers and singers, and we had different classes. And at the time, it was only £1 a class. So I went to go and do acting. That me and my twin went over there, and I said, "Oh," they said, I said, "How much?" And I was in between classes, so I said, "Oh, how much is it to go and do the singing class?" Because I've always always wanted to do it. And they said, "It's only £1." I said, "Okay, can I do it now?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." They go, "Have you sang before?" I go, "Yeah, no, not," because obviously, I had no personal training. So I said, "Yo, you have to put me in beginners." I went into the beginners class. Had the class done and everything like that. Had a really good time. And then the teacher said, "Oh, Jake, can I see you a moment?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm sorry, you can't come back in this class." I goes, "Pardon me?" She said, No. I goes, "Why? What, was I that bad?" She goes, No. I'm saying you need to move up to the next class because you're too good for this one. I'm like, "What?" So, and the same thing happened in the next class. I end up being in an advanced class with Vanessa Simons and all these other people, and I'm like, what am I doing there? Because these people now are people that have sang for a while in choirs and all that. And the one thing I didn't do, funny enough, this is why it would be quite strange for a lot of my school friends, as much as they know me and my twin brother as the dancers and probably the actors and all that, but they never knew me for singing. I wasn't in those sort of theatre schools singing and doing all that stuff. So that would be quite like, well, you've got tunes out now and all of this, but at the same time, they are surprised, but they're not, because they go, "Well, you guys, whatever you lot turned your hand to, you were always very good at it." And I remember saying something silly like, "Listen, me and my family don't do anything that we're not good at." So I said, if I'm not good at it, then what's the point of me doing it? I don't want to be mediocre. I want to be good. And they were like, "That's right." So, and that's what I'm saying. So the skills that I've learned from being that kind of singer or the dancer and all, it's all about the detail and learning those sort of things. I see little things and I study the details, and then I add on to that. And so, so that has been part of my training to be who I am. But yeah, those classes were interesting. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing in the advanced class, to be honest with you, but eventually I realized I fitted right in there, because as much as I never had any formal training, I was naturally a singer in the sense of I could hold notes, keys, and I realized very early on then I was more of a lead singer. I wasn't a backer. I didn't know anything about backing singing. I didn't even know about harmonies. You just backed me because I was doing the ad libs and the riffs, and they were like, "Man, you should get sang with us." No, I grew up listening to Luther Vandross and the Donny Hathaways and all these great singers, and thinking I was just emanating them. And that's where it took me on this journey. I even met Luther Vandross, and he gave me tickets to his concert. And he asked me, "Are you good?" And I said, "Yeah." I'm so glad he didn't ask me to sing them.
Be like, "Child, take a seat. Let the pros show you how it's done."
I was basically singing his songs to learn how to sing, as well as everything else. So I was emanating all. That's the problem, because I was learning. Because I wasn't learning from school and going to singing classes. I was learning from all the lead singers. I was just singing their lines. So I didn't know anything about backing.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
So let me ask you this then. Do you think that even your approach, this is not at all a scientific question. So if anybody gets to see this and they are scientists, let me just put my disclaimer out there right now. This is not a scientific question, but do you think that that even your approach, the way that you learned and that you learned music and you learned, to develop your vocal abilities, do you think that came from the relationship you had with dyslexia, where you maybe had a boldness to you, or a kind of lack of formality? Because I think sometimes what formality does, formal process, is it puts us in a kind of box, and we sort of
it makes a bit rigid
inside of that. Yes, rigid.
Right. And I wasn't. That's the form, and that's what I was going to say to you, Chuma. I don't actually. I wouldn't say I'm the best at it. I've learned to get better at it, because I've always wished that I had the training. But at the same time, most people would say, "What do you need the training for?" Because that would have shaped you and molded you, and that's true. But because I'm a bit of a free spirit, I'm like, no, I just learn things. I learn, and and that's not always correct. But the thing is, I'm open to learning. And the one thing that I've always, even right now, with everything that I do now, all I really need now really is a good manager, or someone that actually just believes in what I want to do, and we'll create so much stuff, whether it be music, fashion, whatever. They just say, right, just a good agent or a good manager to kind of go, right, this is what you want to do, and I'll say, right, and then they do the business side of things, because I'm very good at creating things, but I'm like, just like every creator, we're great at creating and everything like that. Ask me about marketing and business. That's another story.
So that's a good segue into what I'm sad to say looks like the last.
The end.
I'm so gutted. Listen, you do not know how much I want to ask you. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this series. Like, if I tell you, that when I first considered doing this series, Conversations with Me series, I knew that I wanted to start with well-being and lifestyle. I in the past, obviously with my Canthro sessions, studio sessions, I've focused on style ID, and we've had around that, and but I thought to myself it would be good to sort of almost focus the conversation, because I know that a lot of us are navigating this very incredible space, and I'm going to call it incredible space that we have lived through the past year. So for me, I wanted to kind of learn, glean, from how other people have done it, and then also look futuristically into what is possible for us. And so I want to bring it to that, because you talked about your strengths as a creative, and then the areas that you feel that maybe there are gaps that you.
Oh God, yes, right? I could learn so much.
I'm not going to call them weaknesses, because if all of us focused on our strengths, I think we'll all do better collectively.
Yeah.
So I suppose what I would like to ask now is, in terms of being able to live from the perspective of purpose, because this conversation, you have been very purposeful about not just what you've said, but how you've shared, how you've kind of progressed. So from the perspective of purpose and then passion, which is kind of, been the whole kind of underlying part of this conversation, and then this idea of what brings us peace and prosperity. You talked about it from a perspective of success not being about having a job, as I call it, a J.O. Call it just a what do you
just over broke.
Okay, mine is J.O, but that call it like day job. So from that perspective, from perspective of kind of purpose, passion, peace, prosperity, a holistic perspective, how do you see the dreams you have for yourself, the vision you have for yourself? How do you see that transpiring as we move forward? Now, none of us are clairvoyants. We're not claiming to be clairvoyants. We're not even trying to play God. But from that innate sense that we have about ourselves, and when we know we have almost, because I think the advantage of our stage in life is we know what works and what doesn't work for us. Like, we have a better idea of that. If we go to work, we know why we are going to the job, as opposed to trying to find, what's our purpose. That's not why we're going for the job. So what does the future, whether it's immediate future or long term, look like for you?
It's very, very interesting you asked that question. It's a big question. I'm going to try and unpack it for you. But it's funny because of my so-called dyslexia, and I'm very aware of it, even though I don't try and put it in the forefront. I don't tell everybody. You just usually get on with it. But it's always there for me in terms of learning things. And I've learned to be a person that reads a lot more and everything like that. And I can only read books that are going to empower me or motivate me or stimulate me, because I can't just sit there and read a fictional book and just get into it. I've got to read things that are autobiography or something that's just going to help me grow, because that's all I'm about, is trying to find who I am. And it's interesting, the journey that we are even now. I'm realizing that I need to, especially now I'm 50 and beyond. I'm like, okay.
I don't know why you needed to tell the people that.
I know.
No, I'm joking because we love it. We really love it. Like, we love it, right? But we could have got away with it. No, it's okay. No, we love it.
No, but
that is partly why this is important, because that's why I said we are at a place in life where we know we have a better idea of what works. We have a better idea of where we don't need to put our business, and we know that time, is on the other side, is short.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And obviously you get to a certain age and you start thinking, oh, there's so many things. Yeah, I mean, in my head, being the way I see my future and my success and all that, I said, in terms of doing certain things, I would have retired at 45. Yeah, right. However, as I've come to learn more and being an artist and all that, I realize you never retire. I don't retire, and just like, I'm, very mindful of what we say in terms of my faith, where we talk about reading from the cradle to the grave. Same thing. I'm a student for life. I'm going to constantly learn. I'm going to constantly be on that. And this is hence the reason why I physically feel that I need to keep myself more able, more fit, so I can continue doing the things that I want to do, because I've got so much things I still want to achieve and accomplish and grow and do, to be honest with you. So, and it's just like, okay, I'm just going to get on with it and I'm going to do it. And especially in this time, especially like I said to you about earlier on about the lockdown, since the first lockdown, I went and bought, just before the first lockdown, I bought a new machine, because since then I haven't had a machine, because we moved to a different place. I haven't got the space. I've now in this space, I've kind of bought a strong domestic that I can actually start making clothes. I just started off just taking in things, hemming things up and things like that. Now I've actually gone out and got all my patterns, that are all behind me. I've got patterns now. I'm cutting things. I'm now designing all sorts of stuff. There's so much now that I'm actually doing to get back on my fashion side of things. So like I said, being in a lockdown is going to establish your truth of who you are now, because you're like, okay, you've got all this time. Remember, most of us never had time to do nothing but go to work. So now that we have the time, what are you doing with it? Because most of us are just putting on a couple of inches on our waist. Hey, me too. So that's the reason why it's about moving around. Now, it's not, luckily for me, I've just gone back to doing my JOB to keep me moving. But at the same time, I'm still of the mind process of, okay, especially now, you need to do for self. It's now having something that you can do. Hence the reason why, like yourself, you've established this platform right here. So many people, I've been on so many Zooms and platforms now. People all of a sudden who weren't doing hosting and these sort of shows are now doing them, and it's like fantastic. It's making you find a whole new leash of life of who you are and what you're about. So I applaud you for that, because you've actually taken the initiative and you've done it. And this is what. And here's the thing: nobody has to be a Parkinson and all that sort of thing. You can talk to everyday people, and we are heroes in our own right, and we can do that. And this is what I'm saying. So it's important and imperative that we all start getting out and talking our truth and being who we are and establishing who we are as a people, just generally, because all your interests now are all there to be explored. So why not? And fundamentally, you're at home being paid for it. So why not take the opportunity while work has got you on furlough for some of you? Come on, man. All that knitting that you thought you wanted to do. I've always wanted to learn to knit. This is the time. This is the time. Do it.
So I should really just say, okay, conversation done there, because you just said this is the time to do the things that you have always said you wanted to do. Like for me, this is nothing new. The style sessions, it's probably like maybe 5 years old now. Sorry to all the producers. I do apologize, Del. I do apologize to all the wonderful people that were part of it. I will get back to it, I promise. But what happened for me is I started to realize that this idea of waiting for the perfect time was gonna have me see the grave before that happened. And I was like, I'll be damned if the grave gonna meet me here voluntarily.
There you go.
And so and I'm sort of being like touch about it, but really it was that. And it's like what we said before about the age thing. It's like you realize, hold up,
when is the perfect time, Chuma?
Any time is the perfect time, really, because look at what we have just been through, what we are going through, what we're trying to come out of the other side of globally. Whatever we say started it or didn't start it, caused it or didn't cause it.
Absolutely, we're here.
Put into place or not put into place. We were all affected. We are all affected. So I love what you said about this is the time to just do. If it's the knitting, do it. If it's the I have my aloe plants.
Yeah, learn the computering.
All of these I cultivated over COVID. I'm not even green fingered. Like honest to God, I used to just keep cactus just because I was like, they are self-sufficient. Now I'm like the queen of aloe. I'm the queen of, do you know what I mean? I even had trees.
There you go.
Here, like trees in a pot. So I've tested that. And so going back to this thing of the programming, it's also that, like wanting to have conversations with people, that I normally would meet in a cafe to have it with, or walk, go for a walk in the park to have, and after a while you're just like, what am I waiting for? And in my case, my job is hectic. At least I have a job, but it's hectic.
Right.
So this for me is almost the therapy. So I love kind of, how you brought us to this place of closure. So what I will just ask you then is, what is the one thing, whether it's a word of wisdom, a Sufi, because I know that you...
I was going to say one thing to you where we could close.
Okay, go for it.
People make excuses for things they don't want to do.
See, I knew you were going to make me throw something at myself. Repeat that. See, you just made me injure my hair with my own phone.
But this is something I've been taught and which I've learned.
Repeat it.
People make excuses.
Hold up. Because I want you to repeat it. and then all I'm going to do is just press stop. It's going to be that simple, because I don't want to show myself, hitting myself again with
I'm talking to myself when I'm saying this.
Why you think I pick up a block to hit myself? Go again.
People make excuses for things they don't want to do. Simple as that. We are all victim to that. Even to ourselves. We make excuses for things we don't want to do. And when you start hearing yourself making excuses for things you don't want to do, you've got to check yourself. Because it's all very well saying to other people that, I don't really want to do that. So, like a builder, the builders used to say to me, when I don't want to do a job, Jake, I overprice. Because then if they accept the price, then it's worth me doing it then, even though I didn't want to do it. But most of the time, they want to talk their way out of it by overpricing. So somebody will go, nah, I've got somebody else, because they don't want to do it. They said that's the smartest move that some of my friends, when they're builders, they said that's the smartest thing that I've learned to do. I overprice when there's jobs that I don't want to really do, I overprice.
Okay, I know I said I'll stop there. So what would God help me? Okay, people, I am not Oprah. None of this is edited either, so just go with the flow. Just go with me. It's me, Chi. So what would be, if that was a formula, if we were builders having to decide what jobs to take and what jobs not to take in order to grow our business, what would the overpricing formula or mechanism look like? What should it look like?
Okay, what I've said to my children in terms of life, I said, do jobs that can help you to grow to be who you are. In the sense of, if you want to learn, because think about it. When I started doing jobs, I learned to I worked in Pizza Hut, and I learned to.
Wait, you don't understand. I'm trying to find myself. You're just making me look rough up in here. I'm trying to find myself and stay contained, because you throw these gems out. So go back, because I know we'll be here for 2 hours if I carry on like this, but you cannot keep having me have hallelujah moments. So you just need to work with me here. So you say to your children, only do things that
can help you grow to be who you are or want to be.
Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Only do things that help you grow to be who you are or what you want to be.
Exactly.
End of.
You want to learn to cook? You go and work in a restaurant and you learn how to do that. You want to learn to be a communicator? You work in customer service or an environment where it's going to boost your confidence. You do jobs that are going to help you along your journey. This is what it's about. So I've had to go and work because I've been working in retail and all these sort of things, and the entertainment stroke, the customer service side. I've learned to be able to be pliable in the sense of and adaptable to learn to how to negotiate, to communicate, to be I know what it's like to be a host. I've watched them host. I know how to host. I know how to keep house. I know how to keep, these are things that are going to be journeys and gems that you learn along the way that are going to help you to be who you are.
Okay.
And this is what I'm saying.
So would it be safe to say that wherever we are in life right now, COVID-19 in 2021, COVID, whoever they are, COVID, whatever she or he want to call themselves, would it be safe to say that we can close on agreeing that we need to spend our time, not making excuses, instead only taking part, or to the best of our ability, participating in things that we know will empower and enable us to be who we want to be.
Exactly.
Where we want to go.
There you go. I don't know.
Let me just stop there. Let me just stop there. Can you all just, and I know this is a virtual audience, but can you all just help me to salute my friend?
Shay, I give you claps as well. Well done.
Remember in the poetry days, right? Jacob say Muhammed. Yes, just help me to celebrate him up in here, and I will end it there. Mm-hmm.
But for me, there's only one girl that I love to be with.